Tennessee is at the heart of everything I do, and this show was born from a desire to learn about our history and share that with the region. Many of the families represented here still exist in the region, and historic sites like the Netherland Inn and Doak House are beacons shining light on what life would have been like when East Tennessee was still the frontier and as it transitioned into home for so many settlers. There's a real sense of optimism with the decorative arts and craft coming out of Tennessee in the 1800s. It really was a melting pot of immigrants that came down along the Great Road, bringing with them their European traditions and traditions that they picked up in the North. What strikes me is how celebratory these objects are of the styles being passed down and blending together into something new. The pottery in this show is created right from the banks of the creeks that flow into the Holston River, and each potter puts his own decorative spin on something innately utilitarian. Decker's cobalt glaze and floral designs hallmark the family's generations of craftsmanship, while Hahn's organic swipes and stamping and Kane's manganese splotches let us know just whose hands first held those pieces. Finding a thumbprint still embedded into the clay, forever etched into its surface, is quite literally like touching history. One of Tennessee's calling cards was inlaid furniture, which ranged from rustic to incredibly intricate. Inlay remained in fashion in the state much later than any other part of the nation. And the rope and tassel design was really characteristic of the area, but stars, bands, vines, and other elements were also found on a lot of pieces. No matter how fancy the fashion, the homespun from the earth aspect was ever present. Natural woods were prized for their innately decorative qualities, and rich clay and minerals provided a range of color and materials. People grew flax and raised sheep, spun yarn and created woven fabrics all right from home. A lot of the larger furniture speaks to something that you have to see in order to understand, and that's because it's a sense or a feeling of hope and new life. Early settlers came into this region, into these mountains, and built homes, towns, and businesses. It was to be their forever home, and that sense of permanence sings in these pieces. Decoration wasn't necessary, but with every swipe of glaze and inlaid design, craftsmen were adding style to pieces that were made to outlive their first owners. And so they did, passed down from generation to generation, sometimes forgotten to time or repurposed, sometimes finding their way to new parts of the world that their makers could never have dreamed of. But even now, as they sit tantalizingly close to where they were originally made, they are destined to outlive us once again. The promise of a new future on the horizon permeates the decorative arts of Tennessee, and the optimism of the makers and owners lives on in these pieces.